think we'll go ahead and get started. Before I do, can everybody hear me? I guess if you can't, not sure how to exactly, let me point that out. This is the first virtual meeting that we've ever done. So I apologize in advance if there's any technical difficulties, but we're gonna try to work through it here. So if anybody can't hear me, could you please type that in the chat? And if I don't hear anything, then go ahead and get started here. Still got people coming in. Okay, well, thank you all for joining. This meeting's about BT's response to COVID-19, what we're doing to ensure public safety and well-being throughout this time. It's been kind of an ongoing day-by-day response, and it's looking like that's how it's going to continue here for a while. So we wanted to first let you know what we're doing and then hear from you. If you're experiencing anything out there as writers or just as community members. So again, we'll start with a brief presentation here, just going over our response efforts. Go ahead and share my screen. And this is just a brief presentation, but again, just wanted to go through what we've been doing here. First of all, of course, we're urging all riders and community members to use public transportation for essential trips and for essential destinations only. This is in line with the state stay-at-home directives. But of course, we recognize that essential trips still need to be made, and for a lot of people, transit is the only way to make those trips. So we want to make sure that we're delivering service for as long as we can. So as part of our response, of course, one of the biggest things you probably notice is our reduced schedule. It's essentially a Saturday schedule with a couple of adjustments to that. That being adding a bus to the 3 West to keep that at 30-minute frequencies. We want to make sure that we are keeping pace with demand, but we're also not limiting buses to the extent that there's overcrowding on any buses. So that's one thing that maybe we can talk about if you've seen that out there. If there are any buses where you're experiencing overcrowding, we want to hear about that. Another big thing is went fare free back in March. That's just to limit the interactions between drivers and passengers to the extent that we can. In the same way, rear door boarding. We're requiring rear door boarding for all passengers other than those in wheelchairs. Again, that's just to limit the possible interactions between drivers and riders. And Eli, can you pay attention to folks coming in to admit them? Okay. And as soon as this all started back in early March, we went ahead and purchased some specialized cleaning equipment, disinfecting equipment. It's an electrostatic sprayer that we spray down all the buses every night to disinfect every bus. And then vehicle swaps between shifts every day. So a new bus, every time a driver goes out to start a new shift in the afternoon, they're getting a new clean vehicle. So, and then with our drivers, we are urging them all to wear face masks. They've all been provided with face masks, and as well as hand sanitizer, disinfecting equipment. As far as with drivers as well, we've relaxed our absentee policies. So any driver out there, if they are, experiencing any symptoms or if they're sick, we were encouraging them to stay home. Nobody is working unless they're comfortable working at this point. Eli, did you have any more to add to our response here?
I don't have anything to add here, right? I imagine there'll be a few questions here that we can elaborate on.
Yeah, so like I said, our presentation is pretty short. We wanted to spend most of this time addressing any questions that people have. So you all should have the ability to unmute yourself. Again, this is the first time we've done a virtual meeting, so we'll try to keep this as orderly as we can. But if you go ahead and if you want to unmute yourself, if you have questions, we'll try to go through them as we get them here.
So here's a suggestion from somebody that has been using Zoom for 4 years now.
Sure.
Is not unmuting having us all unmute ourselves, and the host of the meeting unmute people who want to ask a question. At the bottom of your screen, there are tools that you can use. You'll see a chat button where people can type in a question.
Okay.
There's also the, you can raise a hand, or I think, you can raise a hand or give a thumbs up. So those help keep it from becoming chaotic in a large Zoom meeting.
We appreciate those comments. Like I said, it's our first time doing it, so any suggestions like that are definitely appreciated.
I see a hand up for Randy.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you speak briefly as far as, is this going to have any impact on your decision as far as the route changing proposals? I think you're doing this month, you're going to vote on it. I mean, are the financial implications of this known yet? I guess I'm just looking for, what's the bigger picture look like for VT, do you know?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up that question. So at this point, we are going to be recommending that we postpone both the approval and implementation of the system redesign project. Like you alluded to, there's just too many uncertainties in terms of our budget and our staffing at this point to really introduce those major changes at this point. We just feel like it would introduce a burden that we don't necessarily need to have right now. So we're looking towards January 2021 for implementation of the system redesign project.
Okay, so is VT receiving any money from the stimulus package that was passed?
Yeah, I'm not. I think there was 25 billion in the CARES Act for all transit agencies, and of course, a portion of that will go to Bloomington Transit. I can't speak to exactly what amount that'll be, though.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and just expanding a little bit on the financial side. Of course, we're taking a hit in terms of our fares going fare free and just a drastic reduction in ridership. But there's also implications with reduced property taxes. We get a sizable portion of our budget from property taxes, which will almost surely be reduced moving forward.
So there's just not that much known right now, though.
Yeah, and that kind of defines the whole situation. There's just a lot of uncertainties. So again, going back to the system redesign project, we don't want to add more to that.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Denise, do you have a comment?
Yes. I have a few questions, actually. How are you tracking ridership? Does the bus driver have a counter that they use? Those little old-fashioned round little counters. Are they using those things?
Yeah, we track ridership the same way that we always have. It's on the fare box itself. So as passengers board, the driver clicks a button according to passenger is.
Okay. And when have there or will, in anticipation of cases where ridership would be crowded on a certain schedule, or you notice more frequent ridership on that schedule, would you increase bus service on that schedule to be able to spread out the number of riders at one time on the bus?
Yeah, we are monitoring that, and like I mentioned earlier, that was one of the first things that we adjusted as in terms of our reduced schedule at this point. Was adding a bus out onto the 3 West. We heard the first day that there was just a large amount of overcrowding on certain peak hour trips. So we went ahead and added a bus out there.
Okay. And on the
Similarly, the Route 7 typically wouldn't run on it. We're essentially running, like I said, a Saturday schedule. But we added a 7 bus, which doesn't typically run on Saturdays, again, to add more options and just reduce any burdens on overcrowding.
excellent. On the sanitation end of it, on the face masks, are they being provided with disposable or washable face masks? And I'm assuming some of the budget from the stimulus that you're going to be receiving go to that, but that's getting really into the weeds, and I want to ask that question later. But are they disposable? What kind of face masks are they? Do they need more face masks? And on the sanitation, is there a way to shut down a bus during the day and sanitize it again?
A couple questions there with the face masks. We originally purchased a few thousand of the disposable face masks, which they all have. And then the latest I've heard was, this was yesterday or the day before, we're getting a batch of the reusable face masks, which, Eli, do you know if those have gone out to drivers yet?
Yeah, we have those. So these are volunteer made. A lot of city departments have received those. So they have our drivers have 2 choices right now.
Right. About the stopping down the buses more frequently to sanitize them, do you see that being an option?
Only caught a little bit of that, but the process for sanitizing buses, that's what you're asking?
Yes, if it could be done more frequently.
We have increased, so we went from sanitizing the buses every night. Again, with this electrostatic equipment that we have that we purchased last month, and we have increased that again to swapping the buses out on every shift. So there are clean buses for every shift. At this point, I'm not exactly sure what more we could do.
Drivers are also provided, I'll add to that, drivers are also provided with wipes to take with them on their shift to clean their area. And
Thank
so that's
you.
a little extra.
My last question, so I can let other people talk. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be hogging everything. Are the bus drivers, are you experiencing illness with any of the bus drivers? Are they all healthy? And I know that we can't get into certain things because of different rules, but I just want to be sure that they're healthy and that they're getting the rest that they need, that they're not overwhelmed because they need more staff or help.
Eli, you can probably speak to the most up-to-date information on that. But yeah, bottom line, like I said, any drivers who are experiencing any kind of symptoms or sickness, they are encouraged to stay home. But Eli, I think you probably have a better understanding.
Sure, I do pop into the office more than Zach. So yeah, our RM drivers are all doing well as far as we know. And we don't pressure them at all to, work if they feel uncomfortable or feel like they need to be home taking care of people or just staying away. So we do have a lot of drivers who are taking a leave of absence, or using paid time off to stay away and prevent the spread.
Right.
And I think I mentioned it earlier, but we, like I said, we have relaxed our absentee policy, so there's absolutely no drawbacks if a driver chooses to stay home.
Okay. Do you have a comment or question, Mary?
I do. My question is, do you know if any of your drivers have reported having the COVID-19?
None has reported that, no.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, we're always curious and would want to know as soon as possible. Yeah.
Well, I thought you probably would keep track of that, but I just wondered, as a whole community, I think we are doing very well with not passing this around. So, and I know that your drivers are doing well at trying to take care of themselves and their passengers. So that's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, we have signs up for our drivers, and we counsel them on being socially distant from each other and from customers. Frequent hand washing when they're inside. We have an ample supply here for them to use to sanitize their hands when they are unable to wash their hands. So yeah, we're doing everything we can to.
And this kind of goes back to.
I do want to go back to the face mask and the hand sanitizers and the health of the drivers. I understand that you're being lenient with them and asking them to use their best judgment, but I'm seeing, not, and I'm not going to disparage anybody, but sometimes our judgment is a little skewed. And I know in some places, if you're ill or displaying have a fever, they are not allowing those workers to work, and mandating that they be healthy or that they use their face mask. Since these drivers have no option but to interact with a great number of public, I mean, if they were to come in ill, displaying any kind of symptoms without self-reporting, and not doing that in a bad intention, but just, I've got bills to pay, I got to keep working, I don't have PTO, whatever reason it might be that they would not want to take any time off. I'm concerned that that there's nobody checking to be sure that they're okay.
Well, they're in contact with their supervisors each day when they start their shift. In their shift, the supervisors who are dispatchers are here in the building still. Unlike me and Zach, who are not always here.
Right, but are they checking temperatures before they get on the bus? I mean, there are places where temperatures are being checked before you enter a building.
Right. No, we have not implemented something like that. We haven't seen signs of ill drivers, so we haven't implemented that sort of policy or procedure. No. We've lost Zach momentarily. Okay, we have another question from Randy. Have you been waiting to say something? I see a hand up from Randy, unless that's already been answered.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Zach is the administrator here who's, we seem to have lost them. Can you all still see some faces in the chat room? Okay. Great. And by the way, if anyone was wondering about our ADA paratransit BT access service, we are still operating the same as the fixed route hours. We're actually a little beyond the fixed route bus hours in order to take some vital trips to dialysis, which is before 7:30. So there's still a few people who are in great need of that. So we actually are going a little bit earlier, three days a week for those trips. But the ridership overall is significantly lower than normal. Our passengers are doing a great job at really trying to stay in and only do those vital trips.
When you say significantly lower, do you have that number?
For BT access, I don't have an exact number, but I can tell you in terms of, I guess, vans that we use. We're usually 6 to 7 vans Monday through Friday, and now we're down to 1 or 2. We haven't had any on Sunday in a month. Only about 4 to 6 trips on a Saturday for BT access. We have also done something that we've done for our drivers who, since our service is cut so much, a lot of our drivers are without the usual hours that they need. So we're giving them time and a half. So we can work them less, but they actually end up getting like the same pay. Overtime is still available.
How are you social distancing your riders?
So what we were doing is we have some signs posted up on buses that there's some behind me. So we're just encouraging them to stay 6 feet apart, wear face masks or face coverings, and just, you know, bus drivers are just asking them to do so on whether they're sitting or standing. So we're really kind of, you know, we're not being forceful like police would or so, but, you know, we're just strongly encouraging them to.
All right, so we just experienced what they're calling Zoom bombing, where folks are entering public meetings and doing things like that. So I apologize for that. There's not a whole lot that we can do to prevent that entirely. Denise, maybe you can shed some light on, I don't know if you've, as an experienced Zoom user, do you have insight on?
Yeah, pretty much. You put out a blast to a lot of people, and then those were put out as well. So on an open meeting like that, it's just like logging into Facebook and leaving your profile open. Yeah. You know, anybody can get in because they've got the password and the meeting address. So yeah. You might want to send out an email, get responses from people first, and then give them the the meeting number and the password.
Yeah, we have to
monitor who's coming in and who's not.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we have to balance our need to keep these open to the public with the need to be.
Right, I know, but the thing about being open to the public, you're balancing your need to being open to the public. You're still being open to the public when you send out a large email, and you're not closing it to the public when you ask if they reserve a ticket to get in.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think so. Check with the city or whoever, the county attorney or the county board. I don't know who your entity is, but
yeah.
Well, Zach, I was just going to make a comment.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you all that I appreciate the fact that you do an open public format and that you're trying to keep everyone as informed as possible by doing this. And so I just wanted to say thank you. So it's greatly appreciated. So thank you, guys.
You're welcome. If anyone has any other comments, they can always email us at customer@bloomingtontransit.com. You can reach out to me at our phone number, 812-336-7433. I'm extension 102. My name is Eli McCormick. You can also search me that way from our phone directory.
Yeah, so if there's nothing else, like I said, it's been kind of an ongoing response. It's almost day by day. So we're monitoring the situation constantly, and we'll keep everybody updated as we progress here.
Sure. And just one more thing, Zach. If we do any changes with our schedule, either more restrictive or when we open it back up, we will announce that on our website, Double Map, Twitter, and Facebook, and also try to make it our phone greeting when you call in. That'll be the first thing that you hear. So you can look at those places for any updates. Yeah, and I do want to point out too, we have our board of directors meeting next Tuesday. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit of our response on COVID-19 there. And like we talked about a little bit earlier, the system redesign, if anybody's curious about that, we'll be addressing that in the agenda. And if anybody came in after we were talking about that, just want to reiterate that we are putting the system redesign project on hold at this point with postponement looking towards January 2021 for implementation. And again, we'll be talking about that more at our board meeting on Tuesday. And we'll be advertising the meeting details for that maybe a little more carefully. I appreciate everybody coming out. If there's nothing else, that's all we have. So thank you. All right, thanks. Take care, everybody.